Okay, we're learning the Gemara too. Mitzvah Hashem, we're going to be hold Parshas Mishpatim, just simple chat in the Chumash. You'll have an easy time with Rashi, those big Rashis in Mishpatim. So the Gemara says that a person's Mekadosh with Shor and Nisko, right? Ein Mekudeshes, because it's Yisur Ano. So the Gemara asks, how do we know it's Yisur Ano? How do you know Shor and Nisko is Yisur Ano? We're just in the middle of this. Shor and Nisko minayin Tanya Mashinem Asokol Yisokil. Regarding the that kills a human being, so the Torah says the ox must be stoned. Sokol Yisokol Ashor, and then what does it say afterwards? And then it says Lo Ye'ochel B'soro. You're not permitted to eat its flesh. So the question is, if it was stoned, isn't it obviously not permitted to eat its flesh? Any yodesh neveli, or nevela asur ba'achilo. So if this is the case, Ma Talmud Loma Lo Ye'ochel B'soro. What does there have to tell me? You're not permitted to eat its flesh. It's meat. We know. Something has to be ritually slaughtered to be permitted. So if it's stoned, that means it's not ritually slaughtered. Shechita hasn't taken place. So what is lo yochel b'soro? Magid loch shem shochtu la'achash nigbadino osabachilo. 1 second. Tell me that after the verdict was given that it should be stoned, the owner of the ox went, or whoever went, and preempted the stoning and had it slaughtered. Shechita was done. Maybe you'd be permitted to eat it. Torah says lo yochel. Even if it was shechita was done and it wasn't stoned, but since the verdict of stoning already has been given, therefore you cannot eat its flesh. That's besoro lo yochel besoro. Definitely, you're permitted. Never became a shor nisko. They have to pronounce when it's alive. Once it's dead, there's no shor nisko. Banominayim. Good. So therefore, we know that if the person preempts the Bezdin before they stone it, you slaughter it. Lo yochel b'sor, you're not permitted to eat its flesh. But how do we know you're not permitted to benefit from it? Talmud Loma, it says ubal hashor noki. The owner of the ox is noki. What does it mean is noki? My mashma. What is the meaning of noki? Noki means you're clean, or you're free, or you're devoid. My mashma shimin mezoma mekodem shom lechavero yotze ploni noki minachosov. So and so, he was left stripped of all his assets. He's left with nothing. That means, so what is the connotation? Ve'ein lo behemano shel klum. Noki means he's not permitted to benefit from it. So, which means it's not only that it's not permitted to eat, you're not even permitted to benefit. So, Mara, it's a question. Umimai d'hai lo yochel es psoro. So we're saying, Sokol Yisokel will tell me, it doesn't mean to say that when you stone it, you're not permitted to eat it. Because if that's the case, the Torah doesn't have to tell me you're not permitted to eat its flesh. Because it's in the veil, it's obvious. So what is it? What do we learn? L'yochel b'soro, that the person preempted the Bezdin, and he did shechita. Nevertheless, you're not permitted to eat it. More asks, how do we know that's what the Torah is saying? Maybe the Torah is saying like this, how do we know that when the Torah says you're not permitted to eat its flesh is where he slaughtered it before the court stoned it? You hear this? Maybe factually, even after, the only time it's not permitted is only if you stone it. If you stone it. Wait 1 second. It's speaking, what does it mean you're not permitted to eat it? When are you not permitted to eat it? Only if it's stoned. If it's slaughtered, you're permitted. We'll see in a moment. Kid Rabavo. But where's the question? Do I need a pasuk to tell me that you're not permitted to eat flesh? We know nevela is not permitted. Anything that's not ritually slaughtered. So the Gemara says, Rabavo. It's the Gemara in Pesachim. The Omer Rabbelozer says, Rabavo, it said in the name of Rabbelozer, the Omer Rabbelozer, Kol mok shinemar lo yochal, lo sochal, lo sochlu. Torah says you should not, he should not eat, you should not eat, they shall not eat. Echor isa achilu esed. Echor isa. Whenever the Torah says you shall not eat means any level of benefit. Eating means not to eat, not to benefit. How do we know this? How do we know this? We'll see in a moment. Unless the Torah goes and articulates specifically as it expresses itself by nevela. What does it say by nevela? It says you're not permitted to eat nevela, but you should what? You should give it to the ger. you should give it, sell it to the ger, or sell it, or give it to the toshav. You should give it as a gift to the toshav. If factually eating means only you're not permitted, what ger means a ger, not a ger tzedek, a goy, right? No. We're saying like this. That's the proof that it's not hano. If the Torah would, when the Torah would say you're not privy to nevel, if it's limited only to eating, what does Torah have to tell me? You give it to the goy or to the ger toshav, the non-Jew who keeps the Shem Mitzvah Nei Noach. What does Torah have to tell me that? Lo sochel means not permitted. It's of course you're permitted to give and to sell. You're permitted because you're permitted the benefit. So what does Torah have to articulate? You shouldn't eat, but you should give it to the ger and to the toshav. So that reveals to me normally what does lo sochel mean? It means not eating and not benefiting. This is the exception because Torah says here it doesn't mean what it normally means regarding the vela. But that reveals to me when if the Torah wouldn't specify how it has to be utilized, then lo sochal means you're not even permitted to benefit. Okay, so that's the Gemara's question. 1 second. It is no, it means stoning. So when it says lo yochel es besoro, what does yochel mean? I would say it means not the benefit. If it would just say sokol yisokel without lo yochel besoro means that you're not permitted to eat it because it's an avela. Now when the Torah continues lo yochel es besoro, what is it adding? What does lo yochel normally mean? Not the benefit. So if I need that those additional words. Because just sokol yisokol lo, what would I think? It's the vela. It must be stoned, but what is a stoned animal? It has been ritually slaughtered. That's why you're not permitted to eat it.
The question is, why is lo sochel there?
1 second. We started off. If it says sokol yisokel, so it's obvious. It's nevela. So what does it say? Lo yochel es besoro. But what about if I say when it says lo yochel besoro, it means benefiting, as Rebbe Vo says, named Rebbe Lozer. That's the meaning of lo yochel es besoro. So if it would have only said sokol yisokel without saying lo yochel es besoro, what would I say? What is the meaning? What is the status of the animal after it's stoned? Just eating. So the Torah has to continue. Lo yochal es besoro. You're not permitted to eat its flesh. And what does lo yochal mean? Not only eating, it means both. So therefore, we can't. But maybe factually, if you preempted the Besdin and you did slaughter it, maybe you're permitted to eat it. Lo yochal besoro is only going to sokol yisokel. If it's stoned, you're not permitted to benefit from it. But if you preempt the court and you do shchita, so factually it was never stoned, maybe you're permitted not only to benefit from it, you're even permitted to eat it. That's the Gemara's question. So how do I know if you preempt the court to slaughter it before the stoning that you're not permitted to eat it or benefit from it? Right? That's what Gemara says before. Nobody argues on this. Let's interpret it differently. Sokol yisokol means it should be stoned. Lo yochel es besoro means not only the provision is limited to eating, even benefiting. But if factually, if you go and preempt the court and you slaughter it, you do shchita, then you're permitted even to eat it. Because what gives it the status of Yisuri Hanoah? It has to be stoned. It has never been stoned, the animal. Howard, you with me? Okay. I see you're still in the days.
Well, in other words, when the verdict comes, the animal has to be stoned. That doesn't count as the animal being stoned. That's just
No, it says, what does the lead sokol yisokol mean? Sokol yisokol lo yochel es besoro. So when is it lo yochel es besoro? When it's stoned. So what gives it its status of not being permitted to eat or benefit from? It has to be stoned.
But why isn't it? How do we know that? Why don't we say
Because that's literally what it means. Sokol, it should be stoned, and you shall not eat its flesh. So what gives it its status of not eating its flesh? You don't eat its flesh when it's alive, correct? It means after it's dead. But literally means it should be stoned, and you should not eat its flesh. But let's say it was never stoned, because you slaughtered it before it was stoned. Maybe you even permitted to eat it. Eat and benefit, both. Benefit and eat. That's the Gemara's question. Okay? Back to the Gemara.
So what is the Ravo?
No, it's only because since Rebbe named Rebbe Lozer, they interpret lo yochal to mean both. So that's why the Torah is qualifying what it means. Sokol yisokel. Sokol yisokel, I'd say what? Because it's not. It hasn't been slaughtered. Lo yochel b'soro means, what does lo yochel mean? Both. So the Torah has to write it. After it's been slaughtered, stoned, lo yochel b'soro. You're not permitted to eat its flesh. Or benefit from its flesh. Correct? But what happens if it was never stoned? You slaughtered it. So then you never came to a point of lo yochel b'soro. Because it's only lo yochel b'soro if it's stoned. This has never been stoned. Okay? Samara says, Hani mili heichad nafkalon isra achilo me lo yochal. He says over here, when the Torah, when Rebbe Lozer says, then Rebbe Lozer, let's say we speak about chometz, it says you should not eat chometz. You should not eat this, whatever it may be. What does that mean? So the Torah says, what is the basis for the prohibition? The Torah says you should not eat this. The Torah says it should be stoned. Right? So how do I know you're not permitted to eat the animal in this context? Eating. Before we get out, lo yochel is b'soro. Well, it's stoned. You're not permitted to eat it because it hasn't been slaughtered. I know it's nevela because of what it says. Something that's not ritually slaughtered is nevela. So sokol yisokol already tells me you're not permitted. The Torah. Over here, what is the animal if it's stoned? It's nevela. We have a portion of nevela. Torah says normally you can benefit nevela. So how should the Torah express itself over here? Hocha isur achila misokol yisokol nafka. Before the Torah says beyond that point, how do I know you're not permitting this animal? Because it's a sokol yisokol. If it's been stoned, it's obvious you can't eat the animal. If in fact the Torah wants to tell me that this animal you're not even permitted to benefit from, in this context, Torah should say you should not benefit. It should say like this, Sokol yisokel lo yene. You should not benefit. It shouldn't say lo yochel b'soro. You're not permitted to benefit from. That's what the Torah should say. If the Torah wants to establish a prohibition of whatever the prohibitions are, nevela, whatever it may be, but this is not the location where it's establishing the prohibition of nevela. Sokol yisok, what's the connotation? Nevela. It's nevela. So how should Torah express itself here? Nevela, but this nevela you're not permitted to benefit from. Torah should say, not lo yochel b'soro, which say lo yene. Inami, lo yochel.
Because in other places where it says nevela, you have to specify.
No, there the Torah specified.
Right.
So here, if the Torah wants to be specific, here we're not addressing the nevela aspect. We're talking about the shoram nisko. It should say lo yene. You're not permitted to benefit from. So he says, and even if you say the Torah prefers to write lo yochal, what lo yochal normally means, not only eating, but it means benefiting, the words es b'soro normally, let's say sokol yisokel lo yochal. Let's say we just say that. Would that be sufficient to know that you're not permitted to benefit? So what does it say, es b'soro? So what does es b'soro come to add? Es b'soro is superfluous. It's flesh. It's obvious it's flesh. If it's stoned, lo yochal, should not eat. What are you eating? It's obvious it's the flesh. So what does it have to say? Es b'soro. Lo yochal es b'soro. Lomali, es b'soro, lomali. Afos. The answer is, you know what b'soros comes to, what it connotes. Afal gav the shachte came bosor. Even though the ritual that you apply to it is something you normally do to bring something to an edible level, osor. Nevertheless, he's still not permitted to benefit. That's the es b'soro. That's how I know that if he did shchita after the verdict of Shora Niskal, you're still not permitted to benefit from it. From es b'soro. Which one? Avagav de shachte came bosser. Even though you slaughtered as you normally slaughter something to make meat available, came bosser the way you normally. How do you purvey meat? Bring about kosher meat. No, that's b'soro. That if there was a psak, he preempted the bezdin and it wasn't stoned, and he did shchita. How do we know you're not permitted to benefit from it? Lo yochal. If we would have just said lo yochal, I'd say that's if it's stoned. Even though it's nevela, this nevela you're not permitted to benefit from. But even if it's es b'soro, you did the ritual which normally prepares meat to be eaten, you're still not permitted to eat or benefit from it.
call for both, for Hana.
No, the Sokol Yisokol tells me no. Without Sokol Yisokol itself, I'd say I don't need for Achila. Lo Yochel tells me Achila and Yisrael. But if it's stoned, yeah, because that's how the animal has to be killed. The animal has to be stoned. And what's the consequence of its stoning? Lo Yochel. Isra Achila Isahno. What's Esbesoro? That even if you have done Shechita where it was not stoned, you're still not permitted to benefit. That's what the Torah is saying. Okay? Maskav lo Razutra. Okay. No, then it's not it was never came to be a Shar Nisko. You have to rule on a living animal. You preempt the court, you slaughter it before, you know where it's headed. They're deliberating and 100% permitted. Permitted. Because they can only pronounce the pronouncement on the living animal. What happens if the animal dies? It's short hanisko. It must be stoned. Can't stone a piece of flesh.
You know this animal really bored, and you know the verdict's going to come down against you. You're going to go ahead and follow your full verdict.
Correct. Now the Gemara asks an interesting question. Maybe when we're saying Esbesor comes that even if you slaughter it, the halacha is you're not permitted to benefit. So he says maybe if you took a rock, a stone, you sharpened the stone, and you slaughter with a stone. So you killed it with a rock. You cut its throat as you would normally do shechita, right? The trachea with a sharp stone which didn't have a nick in it. So since it has relevance as a semblance of stoning, that's the reason why you're not permitted to eat or benefit from it. But let's say you used a piece of metal or some other material, maybe you are permitted. No, an animal is not. No. With an animal, you probably have to actually stone it. I mean, it doesn't break its neck as easily as a human being when you throw it down. They actually stone it. I mean, the Gemara doesn't discuss stoning of an animal, only stoning of a human being. Even though it says the same thing, we're holding by Parshas Yisro almost. How do we know that just stoning means throwing the person to the ground? It's important. You read this Chumash, learning Chumash right now. How do we know stoning means you put a person on an elevated platform, the equivalent of his height, tie his hands and feet behind his feet together and his hands behind his back, then push him off backwards, that he breaks his neck. Because it says by Kabbalah Satorah, nobody was permitted to touch the mountain. So they had to keep a distance from the mountain. It says animal, right, cattle, and the human beings. And it says, if you did touch the mountain, it says yoro yiyore. Those are the words. You'll be cast down. So the cast down is going not only on the human being, that's the Gemara Sanhedrin. That's how we know that you throw a person to his death. He's pushed, and when he falls, he breaks his neck. And if he doesn't die there, then you take a stone, put it on his chest, and he gets crushed. It's not you throw the stone on him. Put a heavy boulder on his chest, and he's crushed as a result of this. See, the yori is going on the animal like it's going on the person. So they first throw it down. If the animal is not killed when it falls, again, they would put this boulder on it, and that would crush it. What happened if you took the animal, you didn't throw it down, and you just stoned it after ruling? And you killed it through stoning. There's no question. You cut its throat. No, maybe that's the reason why it's not permitted, because you killed it with a stone. You killed it. What does stoning mean? You killed it with a stone. So does it make a difference if it was through the impact of the stone or the stone cut an artery and the animal bled to death or couldn't breathe? Maybe that's what it means. I mean, the Gemara is going to say it's not even to be considered for a moment. It first does mean striking. La halacha it does mean striking. It means putting the stone on the person and crushing the person with the stone. Okay, so the Gemara says the way, because the way we understand is the correct way to understand it. But the question is, who said that is the correct understanding? Maybe it means dying through a stone. So in that the Gemara says, maybe if ritually that it has a semblance of stoning, that's the reason why. Avo shochte besakin, lo. But if you slaughter with an ordinary knife, maybe the animal's permitted, right? On that the Gemara asks, midi sakim b'raisa ksiv. When the Torah speaks about ritual slaughter, does it differentiate whether you use a knife or use a stone? Vo Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, chulin b'chol shochtin, any implement qualifies to be the utensil for shechita. Bein betzur, bein beschuchis, whether you use a rock, a flint, whether you use a piece of glass. Bein bekrumi shel koneh, you sharpen a reed and use a reed to cut its neck. So therefore, there's no differentiation. Shechita means, even though it's ritually slaughtered, regardless of what you use. Es besoro means if it's prepared as you normally would make meat available, whatever that means may be. So it's irrelevant what the material of the knife was made of. He's asking, maybe it's only if it has a semblance of stoning, it dies through a stone. See, Torah doesn't say that. That's when you're not permitted to benefit from. But if you're using another type of knife, then it's permitted. So Mercer says, why is it obvious? Because it says espesoro. It means whatever permits flesh to be eaten, and we don't limit it to any type of material as long as it qualifies as a knife, that's sufficient. So Mar asks, V'hashrid nafkalon isra achilo v'sano tavayu lo yochal. So if now we're saying, according to Rebbe Von named Rebbe Loza, whenever there says lo yochal means both you're not permitted to eat the item, you're not permitted to benefit. Hai balashar nokil mayoso. So when Torah says the owner of the ox is noki, until now we mean he's financially stripped, devoid of his asset. So on that Gemara says, lahanos oro. Yeah. What about the hide? After you stone the animal, are you permitted to benefit from its hide? Right? So Gemara says, why would I think? Why would I think that you should be able to? It says you're not permitted to eat its flesh. I mean, something that's edible, you're not permitted to benefit from. But the hide, which has no relevance to be classified as a food item, right? Besaruhu, osur, v'oromuter, right? So therefore, I need Balashar Noki to tell me it's a total financial loss. Not only the flesh is he lost, he even loses the hide, although it's not edible. Someone asks, Ulhanach Tanoi. There are other Tanoim. The Mafkele Hai Balashar Noki L'chatzi Kofer Ulidmei Vlodos Hanosarum Nolu. Now let's discuss this. What's the halacha if you have an animal which hasn't been established as a goring animal? It's called a tam, a docile animal. Its classification is docile, and it goes and it gores another animal. What's the halacha? Do you pay full value or you only pay 50% damages? So the Torah says you pay 50%. 50% of the value of 50% of the liability of the damage. If it's been established as a gore, it gored 3 times, then you pay full value. Whatever the liability, whatever the damage, you pay full damages. So either you pay 50% or 100% damages. Now it's interesting. There's a machlokas in the Gemara Bava Kama. Is chatzi nezek momona or chatzi nezek is kenosa? Is it a penalty or is it restitution? Is it restitution or is it knas? It's a penalty. What's the machlokas if it's restitution or it's penalty? What's the machlokas? Interesting, Shiloh. Why is a person who owns the Mishnah says in Bava Kama, person has his ox locked up in the barn at nighttime. Thieves break into the barn, open the barn, the ox escapes and gores another animal. Does the owner have any liability? The answer is the owner has no liability. Why doesn't he have liability? He acted responsibly as an owner. He put it into a protected location, and he's not obligated to stay up all night making sure nobody breaks into his barn. So because he was unaware that it was released from the barn, he has no liability for the damages of the ox, because he acted responsibly vis-a-vis the ox. That's the halacha. When is he liable? If he was delinquent regarding his responsibility as an owner of an ox. Okay? When you're delinquent, then you're liable. Now the question is, if an ox is docile, it hasn't yet gored, hasn't shown any tendencies to damage, hasn't. So therefore, does the owner have an obligation, despite that, to be extra vigilant, to watch over his ox to make sure it shouldn't damage? That's the argument. Do we say, nevertheless, you still have an obligation? No, it could be any animal. It's not specific, any animal. You never know. The Torah still wants you to be vigilant. However, since the mindset of the average person is, because it's a docile ox, it hasn't shown that it is a damager or a gora. Therefore, the Torah gives you a 50% reduction on the liability. But that's the principle of what chatzi mamona. That's chatzi nezek mamona. Then it's restitution. Really, you should pay full restitution. But since the person is not fully conscious of it, doesn't see his ox as a damager or whatever the animal is a damager, so when it gores, it's what? We give him a 50% reduction on the restitution. That's the position, chatzi nezek mamona. Chatzi nezek knos means if actually you should not be liable whatsoever, as we just said, because the animal hasn't established itself as a gora. Nevertheless, but since theoretically it's possible, we want a person to be extra careful. So we penalize you for not being extra careful. If it would be restitution, that means you should pay full damages. The answer is the animal is docile. You have no obligation as an owner to watch it. But we want you to be extra careful. This thing is not recording. It's probably full. The basis... No, we're penalizing you. Restitution is, the way we understand restitution is, it's your responsibility. It's a conscious responsibility. Consciously, you're aware you should be responsible. When you act, you're responsible. That's when the Torah holds you liable for the actions of your asset. It's called mammon hamazik. Mammon hamazik, when your asset damages, you have a Adam hamazik, if a human being causes any level of damage, he has full liability. Whether it's b'shogeg, b'mezid, b'ones, in the middle of your sleep, you're sleeping, and you have vessels near you, and you turn over and you break the vessels. Correct? You're liable. That's Adam Wud Lolam. Person, when he personally damages, you have full liability. You are liable. It doesn't make a difference. You're walking and you walk backwards and you bump into something, you break something. You're liable. You wouldn't even know where it's behind you. Fully liable. The ox. That's something else. We're talking about financial liability. Adam Muad Lo'olam. A person is fully liable, unlimited liability. That's Adam Hamaz. That's when the person himself causes the damage. Mammon Hamazik, when your asset causes damage, then it depends what the circumstances. Okay? So I'm saying here, factually, the Torah says since the animal has a chazokah. Chazokah means the presumption is it will not damage. Therefore, it's not classified as restitution. I'm obligated to restore you. That's only when I was delinquent regarding my obvious responsibility. You have no responsibility. Nevertheless, the Torah penalizes you because the Torah wants you to be more cognizant than which normally you're not cognizant. So that's not called restitution. That's called penalty. So when they penalize you, it's only 50% of the damage. That's the position. Chatzi nezek. Chatzi is nezek is knosa. It's knas. What's the halachic difference? We have a principle moed b'knas poter. If a person admits he has a financial obligation, what's the halacha? Hodos baldin kamedim dami. Right? If I admit that I owe you money. No, anything. If something's classified as monetary. I said, I stole from you. I damaged you. I make such an admission. What's the halacha? No witnesses. And I say, I go on record to say I caused you damage. Person has a broken window. I say, I broke the window. Accidentally, mistakenly, I broke your window. And you make that statement in official capacity, you're fully allowed. You have to pay the value of that damage. That's Hodos Baldin. What about if your ox gored and it was a tam? And you go to Beis Din and you say, my ox gored the other person's ox. The moment you make that admission in Beis Din cannot convict you on that. That's called Moda B'Knas Poter. When you admit regarding anything which is a penalty, Torah says you cannot be convicted. Why? Because the Torah says, Asher Yashirun Elohim. The only time you could be held, you could be convicted on something which is penalty, is only if the court, you're convicted through the court. But it's as a result of your admission, then the court cannot convict you. Ox gored. And you go to court and you admit, my ox gored, they cannot convict you on it. No penalty. No chatzi nezek, nothing. Not even 50%. Let's say 2 witnesses will come. Then you pay 50% penalty. Correct. What? I can't. What? No, that's Hodos Baldin. Hodos Baldin Committee. You admit regarding any monetary obligation, you pay. That's like witness. You pay full. You pay, right, correct. Correct. No, but the court cannot penalize you. That's only when it's a penalty. No, because he's not a damager. He's not a damager. The 50% is classified as penalty. It's not restitution. No, but it's a docile ox. Wait, it's a docile ox. Now when the court, let's say the court convicts him, witnesses come. What is the basis for that 50% payment? It's penalty. That's knas. It's not called restitution. Before the witnesses, the court cannot convict him. But again, penalty. But I'm not paying you as a damager. I'm not paying you as a damager. It's a fine. It's like, you have amnesty. Person who comes admits he will not pay the penalty to the IRS. If he admits that he didn't pay his taxes, he'll pay only what he owes. He doesn't. He's not able to collect the penalty, the fine. The court will not fine him. No. What about the 50%? He's out of luck. What about?
The man who admitted he doesn't. It's his asset that inflicted the damage.
It doesn't make a difference. But even when I pay you, I'm not paying you as restitution. I'm not paying you. I'm not compensating you for it. Because the Torah says, Asher Yashun Elohim. Whenever the court convicts a person on penalty, the basis for the conviction has to come from an outside source. It cannot be self-incrimination. There's no restitution. That's because it's a tam. Since it's a non-goring ox, there's no basis for restitution. We'll continue.